Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of your program Decryptage. Today we are having Mrs. Zodwa MABUZA, who serves as the Principal Regional Integration Officer at the African Development Bank. She also leads the work on the production of the African Visa Openness Index, whose 9th edition was published on the 25th of November 2024. During this exchange, Mrs. MABUZA gives more details on this year's edition of the Africa Visa Openness Index, the improvements made, and what countries can do to improve their ranking and thus promote trade. Mrs. Zodwa MABUZA, welcome to Africa 24. The Africa Visa Openness Index has just been released for the 9th time. What are the key findings of this publication?
Well, we have seen some countries improving their rankings. For instance, the top performers this year, the top performers in terms of the Visa Openness Index are Sierra Leone and Angola. Sierra Leone has actually jumped 9 places from position, I think, 31 to position 22 to 13. That's a huge jump. It has actually joined the countries that are in the top 20. And how they've done it is they've added 9 countries from Africa whose citizens do not require a visa to enter Sierra Leone. And then for the rest of the countries can get a visa on arrival. So basically Sierra Leone, 19 African countries, citizens do not require a visa to enter Sierra Leone. And then the rest of the country's citizens can get a visa on arrival. And that has really helped the country to improve on its ranking. It's a lesson for other countries to say you can actually institute some reforms that will facilitate the free movement of people in Africa.
Mrs. Zodwa, tell us, how important is the African Visa Openness important in the African continent? How will it help on its development plan?
It really does matter. If you will recall, the African Union has what we call the Free Movement Protocol, which has 3 phases. The first phase deals with visa removal for all Africans within Africa, and then the other one deals with the right of establishment and right of residence. We are not there yet. What we want to say to most governments is that removal of visa will also help them to reap from the benefits of the African Continental Free Trade Area. If you will recall, one of the statements that was said by the bank president, the African Development Bank president, is that trade doesn't happen in a vacuum. For you to move goods across borders, you need drivers, you need people. For somebody to come to your country to invest, they must come to your country to see how the environment is, and then they will invest. You don't expect somebody who's going to be expending their money in your country to take their passport to your embassy to apply for visa, which can be rejected, and to pay, because you want investment into your country. So what we're saying is, for countries to promote trade, to promote investment, to promote tourism, they need to open up their borders.
During a conference recently, Mr. Aliko Dangote, Africa's richest business tycoon, acknowledged the difficulties he faced in getting visas to travel around Africa despite his lucrative plans around the continent. This definitely applies to the same and probably worse for the common man to travel. What major barriers are responsible for restrictive circulation of Africans within the continent?
Well, I think most countries have used visa fees as a way of revenue, as a revenue-making mechanism, to say they want to boost their fiscal position, so they collect visa. But that's a short term of looking at it, because if you really want to increase your revenue collection, you would be allowing more people to come and spend money in your hotels, in your establishment, to shop in your country. Then you can tax, you can get more tax. It's a short-sighted way of looking at things. But then you have other countries that fear that if they open up, there'll be an influx of people. As you've heard during that discussion, Cameroon and Nigeria have a bilateral arrangement. Cameroon, 27 million people, Nigeria, more than 200 million people, but you have not seen an influx of Nigerians into Cameroon. So a lot of these fears are unfounded. So my plea to member states would be, if they really want to grow their economies, they should open up, not opening up to migration as it were. You open up for short-term stays, for tourists, for investors, for traders. That is the sort of free movement we're talking about.
The AU, with other organs like the African Continental Free Trade Area, have been working towards breaking these barriers, yet a lot is still to be done. What more do you think can be added to speed up this process?
Well, as the Director for Regional Integration at the African Development Bank said, what we will be doing the first quarter of 2025 are the roadshows where we go to the countries to engage with the public, with governments, with institutions, with the private sector, to say, what does it really mean to open up borders, and what do countries stand to benefit from there? I think in the past we've just produced this report, attracted media attention for the first 2-3 months. After that, that's it. But we want to keep it alive. We want to engage. We want to engage the regional economic communities. If you recall, what was said in the discussion is that we want to promote free movement within REX, so that, like SADC has about, I think, 15 countries. If you allow free movement within SADC, every citizen of SADC countries can have access to any other SADC country visa-free, then we can extend that policy to other RECs. For instance, SADC and EAC can say, okay, we have this protocol on free movement. How can we facilitate EAC member states citizens to come and visit SADC for trade purposes, not the permanent migration, which most countries fear. And then the second thing is, I think what the director said is, we need to, let me try to remember, what did you say? It was the road shows, and then it was the analysis, the analytics, to say, how do we use this information to promote? And then the third one, she spoke about the movement, to say, if a few individuals understand what free movement is all about, they can then tell others, and we just encourage our governments to open up and remove visa requirements.
With lots of appraisal from this 9th edition, what can we expect for the 10th edition of the Africa Visa Openness Index?
Oh, the 10th edition is very important. We are still going to sit together with the African Union, who are our partners in the production of this report, to see how can we make the 10th edition more impactful, but also how do we change the variables to take into account what has happened, because over the 10 years we have seen e-visas coming to the fore, and then the infamous electronic travel authorization. What do we do with that? Do we need to tweak the variables, or do we need to add more? So that's a discussion we'll be having post-2025. But definitely the 10th edition in 2025 will be more exciting.
Mrs. Zodwa MABUZA, thank you for answering our questions on Africa 24. Ladies and gentlemen, we hereby draw curtains on this edition of Decryptage. Stay tuned for more information on Africa 24 English.